trying to figure out what works the best for me, what type of business, what kind of things I want on my calendar every week that fits really well with that lifestyle I want to lead. There's always seasons of ebbs and flows. Like I'm at a point now where I can put my kids' schedule on my calendar and like hardly ever work when they're home. When I was first starting, I worked until 2:00 in the morning every night because I had infants. It's a matter of like balancing your dreams and what you want to do and how you want to make money with the type of lifestyle you want to lead and what that looks like in every different season. Oh, I talked about memberships as part of the video, so let me talk about Uscreen. And I like that too, and that is what I promise. So when I'm signing the deals, I am not promising them that it'll even fit in the video. I'm promising them a commercial break.
This is Jessica Stansberry. She makes $400,000 annually, teaching aspiring creator business owners how to create digital products and online courses and sell them with some really freaking good marketing. Her income comes directly from her incredible efforts on YouTube in between kids' activities and crazy farm life. As a mom, she has learned the necessity of setting really clear boundaries between work and mom life, and it was not easy for her to get there. In this episode, we are going to discuss how becoming a mom projected her into starting her own business, the different opportunities that B2B creators and B2C creators have, her incredibly crazy and unique money-making experiences, both horrible and amazing, how she's doing sponsorship deals just a little bit differently, and that the point of all of this is to make money around your life and the things that matter to you. Jessica proves time and time again that it doesn't matter where you're from or what you sound like. You can be financially successful, independent, and relatable as long as you show up and give value to your viewers. The Funded YouTuber is brought to you by Gigastar. If there was ever a person on this planet that I have talked more about money with, it would definitely be the girl dancing next to me, Jessica Stansberry. Welcome to the Funded YouTuber, my friend.
Hello, thank you for having me. Did you like my hula dance?
I do. I love it. Like, I think we're recording this and it's like cold over spring break. And I'm like, why is spring break always snowy? Like, I don't get it.
I don't know. Who made that decision? I mean, really though, like
no idea.
Who did this? Who did we talk to?
I would like to file a complaint. So. Okay. So Jessica, what do you create on YouTube?
Videos. So I thought you'd like that. Creating videos.
We're never going to get through this. Okay. Try again. Jessica, what do you create on YouTube?
So I am creating content to help creators and entrepreneurs make money, get better growth in whatever they're trying to do, like grow more on YouTube, grow on Instagram, like whatever the scenario is, and to show behind the scenes of being a creator too.
How did you get here? Because I mean, I know the journey, but our viewers and listeners may not.
I started on YouTube as a business owner as a way to boost the SEO of my blog. So like that's where it initially started. I was blogging at the time. This was like 2016. Yeah, 2016. So I was blogging and I was doing pretty good with that. Like I was getting a ton of traffic. And then I was like, okay, I heard that if you do a YouTube video that also, has the keywords and you embed it in the blog post, it'll do better and blah, blah, blah. So that's initially how I started. And then about a year later, I logged in to YouTube and I had never pointed anybody to YouTube like ever. Like it was just like a holding ground for these videos to go on my blog. And I logged into YouTube and I had like 500 subscribers. And I was like, if I could get 500 subscribers without trying, maybe I should try a little bit. And so I kind of started actually taking YouTube as a platform seriously in 2017. I was really focused on like tech, systems, business marketing, all the things. And it's kind of in that same realm now. It's just that it's shifted a lot to like the creator economy too, because that was not really a thing in the beginning.
So you talk to entrepreneurs about like what they can do to use video and YouTube to do all of these things. You and I both know that there's people that talk about this, but what you do that is so monumentally impressive is that you have built a multi six-figure annual business from your YouTube account around products, services, all the things. So let's talk about that journey. Walk us through the journey from 2017 to now about like how you've made income very specifically tied to your actions, your strategic actions on YouTube.
2017, I was still a web designer slightly at that point. So that's kind of how I started, was in web design. I started my business in 2010, web and graphic design, in order to stay home with my son at the time. I was like, I've got to quit this corporate job. I want to do this. So that's where I started. And then by the time I started on YouTube, that's where I still was. I mean, yeah, courses were a thing, but I wasn't there yet. Like I didn't have the audience yet to try and sell courses or digital products or affiliates or any of that. And so when I started on YouTube, I was still very much so in the web design space, but I also very much so wanted out of it. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Clients were driving me crazy. And so, I knew about online courses, digital products. And so I was like, okay, if I can gain an audience, then I can, make this switch. And that's exactly what I did. By the end of 2017, I was no longer doing web design at all. So at that point, most of my income was courses for sure. And I believe 2017, maybe early 2018 was the year that I launched a course every month, which was insane. I would like, why? Why did I do
Yeah.
that? I
How
have no idea.
how successful was that?
Not very, but it was enough to keep my income up. I think at this point I had gotten, let's say I was charging $5,000 for a web design, and I was doing 2 or 3 a month, and I was accustomed to $10,000 to $15,000 a month at that point. I needed to be able to make that from courses. And so in my head, instead of doubling down on one course, it was create a bunch of courses. And I don't really know why, but it was like it enabled me to sustain my income that way. But I would have been way more successful if I would have doubled down and like sold 1 or 2 courses throughout that time. But it was all mostly courses at that point and affiliates. I really started incorporating affiliates because of the YouTube channel. And I did not take a single brand deal, even though I was offered them, even though people like brands were coming out of the woodworks wanting to work with me. I did not take a single brand deal until 2020. And I did not like lean into it and really like embrace brand deals until like 2022. And so I went a really long time on YouTube, making a little money from AdSense here and there, but specifically using it to gain leads and point people to my courses and my digital products and or to sell those directly. And now, like strategically, I wanted to be less of that, like, oh, I'm just like teaching you all the things and sending you over here to get lead magnet. And I'm just like, blah, 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 blah. I wanted to be less of that. And
Yeah.
so I kind of shifted into like what I'm calling my creative era or creator era, I guess I should say. In 2020, I really started making that shift because my channel did really well in 2020 and then it died in 2021. And so that's when I was like, okay, I really have to make a shift here. And now there's a big combination, as you saw on my little pie chart we're going to talk about. But like now it's, brand deals are a huge chunk, way bigger than they were before. And courses are still the main piece. And then there's affiliates and digital products and things like that, scattered throughout. So yeah, it's kind of just been like an evolution of what feels good. I don't do things if they don't feel good. And so like if I try something and I don't like it, we don't do it.
We have a lot to talk about here. What makes a successful course? And I would love this advice from like, let's compare and contrast. Because with this podcast, we've had quite a few people on who have been in the game for a minute. Like we've had some newerish ones, but then we've had like, Brian and Nick who've been on for forever. Right.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know, like, this is what worked really well with courses during this era. But now this is what works for courses to be successful.
So I just posted a thread. I'm not a big threader. Is that what we're calling threading? Threader? Whatever the heck it is. You know what I'm talking about. So I posted a thread the other day and I was like, I'm so over big courses, like big courses, like huge courses that teach people lots of things.
Okay.
Because one, they're hard as hell to sell. Can I say hell? Is that okay?
Say whatever the hell.
Okay. They're hard to sell. And they're also like, it's really hard to get people to actually accomplish it and finish it. And so it's one of those things that as a course creator, you're like, I don't like that. I don't like that you're spending $1,000 on my course and then you're not like actually going through it. I personally think that we're in an era now that is more truncated, more tactical, shorter, easier to consume courses. That is what people are going to have more success with than these massive, huge courses, which people had more success with, pre-COVID. From COVID to now has been a really interesting dynamic, I think, in every industry, right? But like in the course industry, in the digital product industry, and all of it is like, it's really shifted so much. And a lot of that's because, people were inundated with courses in 2020 and 2021 because everybody was home and like, blah, 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 And so as far as like what makes a successful course, I think we're going into the era of shorter, quicker wins, that kind of thing. But like for me, what makes a successful course as the person creating it is obviously that it sells and that it makes money. And then, that the people in it actually get benefit from it and get wins and go through it, and we get testimonials and that kind of thing.
So do you think that when you say like short courses versus long courses, talk to me about like the price point then that we get to attach it to? Because I know that I have a mastermind that I meet with, we meet every week, and a bunch of them are making courses. And one of the things that they're having the debate about is like, how much do I put into it? And like, how do I attach value to what it is? So like one guy has this, like, I'm doing one course and it's incredibly long. It's all about headstone cleaning. It's an expensive course. This other guy, he's teaching me about 3D printing, and it's all these like micro, like 5 to 15 minute like modules for completing a specific task, and he's going to make a bunch of those. So like, where do we sit with that, with like pricing and figuring out how all that works?
For me, it's kind of one of those like how much of a quick win is the course? Like can they take it and consume it like in a weekend and then also implement it very quickly too? If that's the case, for me, it's going to be a lower cost kind of situation. Whereas if it's something that is like going to take them a while to go through, but also implement, and they don't know if what they're implementing is truly working for a while, like that kind of thing, it's going to be a higher cost course. So the way I'm looking at it is like my YouTube, I have a YouTube sales accelerator course specifically for business owners to use YouTube to like do what I did, right? And it's currently $1,000. It's going up to 2,000. It's doubling, but it's like, it's a monster course. Like it's literally like teaching you everything you need to know to grow on YouTube, and it's updated all the time, and it's teaching you the editing, but it's also teaching you the strategy, and it's teaching you the sales, and like huge course. Nobody could possibly go through it and implement it in a week, And that's intentional. Like we both know like you need longer than a week to see if something works on YouTube. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, longer than a year sometimes to see
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I'm looking at it like that versus selling a course on how to use Final Cut Pro that I would charge $97 for, or a course on how to edit vertical videos or something like that I would charge much less for. For me, the cost is directly related to the amount of time that people take to go through the course, but also the amount of my brain power that goes into the course.
I find it especially because a lot of people in the education system in general, like a lot of them are leaning into courses. And I know that like a lot of our guests that we've had on, like, oh, I have a course for this, I have a course for this, I have a course for this. And it becomes a little worrisome or concerning that like this is the golden goose of digital products and ways that we make money. And it makes me concerned like it could go away at any moment, or that like it's going to be this route because when people are going to burn out on it. Like for me, and I am like everyone's not customer when it comes to course. I literally had to like make a promise to myself that like you cannot buy courses because you never finish them, or you never open them, you never do them. Do you think that there's something wrong with this idea of like making and selling something that people don't finish, do, use, or whatever it is?
For me, yes, because it drives me nuts. I'm like, I don't like that you spent that money and then you didn't do anything with it. Like, it's not really my problem, either. But like, I also like, I'm like, why? And then it gets hard to sell because then you don't have the testimonials, you don't have the evidence coming out of the back end. And I do think we're in a time right now where courses are, I won't say going away, but they're definitely not what they used to be, specifically for the B2B markets. I think B2C is still very much so in their like good era with courses because consumers are less sophisticated when it comes to this, right?
They're more intentional.
Yeah. And for you, you're a business owner. You've taken courses. You've done this. You've been there. You went down that rabbit hole, right? So you can have that decision. I'm not taking any more courses right now. Whereas a mom who, I don't know, found a course on how to teach her kids how to swim or whatever, maybe has never taken a course, doesn't know she's not going to complete it, doesn't know all of that stuff that we know. So I think B2C courses are still okay. B2B courses are on their way into a shift, I think. Not out, just shifting.
Any idea what that shift is?
Yeah, I really think it's just shorter, easier to consume courses or digital products or workshops, like more of that type of thing than like what we would call a traditional course.
I also wonder if too there's a shift to like into memberships as well. Like where the added benefit is you get access to the course library, but you also get access to membership in the bonus calls and things like that. And I think that that is much more where the B2B people would find more success for the B2C people. Again, someone again using my accountability group, the guy that does 3D printing, he has membership and he's like, I have to do these monthly calls and I hate doing them because like it's a B2C thing and like you are having a hard time seeing how they're getting value or showing up or whatever, but they do like and want all these other things. And so I could really see because I hadn't really thought about this, like how B2B courses would work differently than B2C courses would work. But that makes a lot of sense. So for the B2B people listening, they're like, oh great, what am I supposed to do? What do you think is a better digital product experience that they could go down?
I think a membership is a really good. I do. I think that that's a huge piece of kind of what that's moving towards. But also, there are pieces of it that a lot of people don't like. I have had like 4 different memberships, different structures, and different like deliverables. But I've had to go through those to figure out what I do not want to do, because like I don't want to be on calls all the time. And we know this. I talk about this a lot. Like I don't like to be on the phone all the time. And a lot of it's because if my calendar is all taken over by calls, then I don't have any time to create the content that actually pays the bills, you know? And so it's like the content actually leads people to the membership, but then I'm on a call with the membership and then I can't make the content. You know what I mean? Like it's like a whole thing. And so so I do think memberships are a good place that like things are going, but more than that, packaging things as really easy to consume helpful bits. So, for instance, like instead of packaging, let's say I was going to do that course on how to edit in Final Cut Pro. Instead of packaging it as a course, packaging it as like a workshop or a quick, like something that like literally gives the connotation that like they can do it fast, or that they're literally having one question answered. They're not having a question answered and then having to ask another question and having to like whatever and go down the rabbit hole. So I think a big piece is like making those really, really truncated, easy to consume things. So mini courses, templates, workbooks, guides of some sort, things like that are really going to help people get a win and answer one question, not 72 questions, one question.
I think that that has a lot of really great value to do as well. Now, the thing that's been so interesting about you on your financial journey is not just like being this like course expert and this content creator expert, and you're really focused on helping people. You help women, I think, the most because of like the relatability connectivity with building businesses and brands that work around their life. You had already mentioned at the beginning about how like you got into this because you were taking care of your kids. You have a very like great story that a lot of people can go listen to and find about in other places, and we're not here to talk about that. What I do think though it's important to talk about is this idea, and I think that it's the big draw and attraction to the creator economy, which is being able to build a business that you control the time that you spend and like when and how you do things, especially you who's in the thick of teenage sports life.
Yeah.
I'm like, so much
Yeah.
work. I'm not looking forward to it. My kids are 10 and 8, and I'm just like holding them off as much as humanly possible and going into that world. But how do you successfully build something while having kids? And I'm saying it very specifically with the while having kids part because there's so many creators now that I'm seeing, and there are a lot of men actually, where they've had all this time to build this successful foundation and then they got to go have kids. But so many of the people that like you are attracted to, like, I'm trying to figure out how to make money and have more control of my time because having kids is expensive, or I want to have kids, or I'm in the thick of it and I don't know what to do to navigate that. How do you do that?
First and foremost, my kids' schedule comes first. It goes in the calendar first. Like that's what happens first. So, for instance, my kids get out of school at like 3:15 depending on the day, the time, the whatever, That is literally blocked off every day on my calendar. Like I don't do anything after that time because I know that like yesterday I also started a nonprofit this year, which is a booster club at my son's middle school. So that's a whole conversation. But yesterday, I picked them up from school, came home, made sure everybody had things for everywhere they were going. And then I had to run out the door to a booster club meeting while my husband took the kids to a practice where I ran to that practice and then took pictures of the kids. After 3 o'clock, my world goes blah, 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 blah. Like literally, like I can't do anything. And on the weekends, like I can't, like the weekend work is not a thing for me. I cannot do it. I am stressed out because like, oh my gosh, I planned to work today, but then this person's coach decided they were going to have a practice on Sunday or like whatever the scenario is. Then I'm frustrated and I'm frustrated at my kids or the scenario. So I learned a really long time ago that I need to have really, really clear barriers and boundaries between work life and mom life. So first and foremost, my kids' schedule goes on my calendar first. And then I've really spent a lot of years trying to figure out what works the best for me, what type of business, what kind of things I want on my calendar every week that fits really well with that lifestyle I want to lead. And so, some people are totally fine being on the phone, doing things like coaching people, all of that, and, doing all of those things, and then also being a mom and, whatever. I'm not, because if I'm stressed out because I've talked on the phone all day and I've coached people and my head hurts and like, you know what I mean? Like, then I'm not the mom I want to be. And so for me, it's just been like almost like a process of elimination to try and figure out what works best with the mom that I want to be while also making the money I want to make. And it's like, that's how I've gotten to this point. But I think the biggest thing is to understand that there's always seasons of ebbs and flows. Like I'm at a point now where I can put my kids' schedule on my calendar and like I don't ever like hardly ever work when they're home, like all the things. But when I was first starting, I worked until 2 o'clock in the morning every night because I had infants, And so it's a matter of like balancing your dreams and what you want to do and how you want to make money with the type of lifestyle you want to lead and what that looks like in every different season. And it's going to look so different for everybody. Like everybody has so many different circumstances. Some people have a really available spouse. Some people don't have a spouse. Some people don't have, an available spouse, right? Like they have a job that's like insanely like whatever, some people have a lot of extra marital help, some people like I live next to both of our like in the same county as both of our families, some people don't have that help at all. And so like it's building that around what you want. And I think I would focus more than anything on the type of life that you want at this current stage, but also in the future stages with your kids or whatever the scenario is, and then build the business around that specifically, taking into consideration what you enjoy doing and what makes you a better person when you do turn off the work clock.
I think what is an important thing that I've also taken away from what you said is you also have to understand that it takes time. I know that so many people get into what we do because they're seeing all of our day 50s, 100s, 1000s.
Yeah.
And I remember starting off, I remember when I started social media marketing 15 years ago, I lived with my parents because I had lost my job because recession. My now husband was my brand spanking new boyfriend. I had a dog and a cat, which was like a total financial obligation that I was like, how am I going to take care of my furry animals? And I was in the space where I was like, okay, I can't get work. And being like a random swim instructor for these kids a few days a week, like I have to figure out how to make money. And if they're not going to give me a job, I have to go make one for myself. And that's when I had to learn all of these things. I had to learn what networking was. I had to learn how to talk to people and relate to people, even though I was 24 years old. I had to figure out like, what does it mean to be a social media manager? And it wasn't even called that at the time. It was like a person that posts stuff on Facebook. Like there wasn't a
Right.
job title for that yet. There were so many, like, how do you do it as a business? I was doing everything manually. Like I would have to go onto my computer every day and post things for brands on their Facebooks and Twitters because there wasn't a tool that existed yet for me to schedule content. Like that's like the hard work you have to. And I would have days. I remember I get these Facebook memories that will pop up. I always age myself too. And I tell them I'm on Facebook. I get these Facebook memories that pop up and it'll be like, oh man, I networked for 14 hours today. Get to do it again tomorrow. And I was like, oh my God, the things
Yeah.
you get to do when you're in your 20s. Like, it's just,
Yes.
It's so different, and I think that it's
Yes.
important to just remember, like, there's a lot of hard work, and there's a lot of, like, you have to find people that are in your phase of life
Hmm.
to learn from.
Absolutely. Or just past that phase of life too, right? Like just past it,
Yeah.
you know?
And it's also a thing too to consider too. It's like also when you're talking with people like me and Jess, we've been on YouTube since 2016, 2017. If you're getting into YouTube in 2024, or you've been in it since like let's just say the post COVID days, it's an entirely different ball game. You have to take a lot of factors into place. Like I remember I talked with Kaya from the information about this, and it was this idea is like, why are we in the state of the creator economy? We idolize all these childless relationship 20 somethings who are able to just obsessively act stupid on the internet and make millions of dollars, and like that becomes like the idolization, the standard of what people want. And it's like, no, you have to go find the people in your world, in your space, that not just like your niche but in like your life position. Be like, okay, how are you doing this? Because that's what I can relate to. And we're talking about money. You have to be able to find those people, because if you're me and Jess, late 30s moms, and we're trying to figure out what's our next money move, what are we going to do next?
Hmm.
Like, where are we, like, we're going to go talk to the other people in our space about what they're doing, and, look at what other people are doing and figure out how we can make that work. But we're not going to go look at the 25-year-old child on YouTube
Right.
because they're not where we are in life. And I feel like that is a massive thing to take into account, like life taking into income.
Yes, and what's the quote or whatever where people are like, Beyonce, we all have the same 24 hours as Beyonce. No bullshit, we do. Beyonce, Beyonce has like nannies and maids and like things that I do not have or want or could even get if I tried because nobody around here has that, right? Beyonce is not driving her happy ass 3 hours to an airport to go to a conference. Like I have to get in a car and drive 3 hours like to do anything. And so like no, we do not all have the same 24 hours in a day. And like all of our 24 hours are very, very, very different. And yeah, like we can't, we have to realize our stage of life for what we want and how that all fits together. I mean, I literally was up working, which I mean, I was 27 years old, but I was up working until 3 o'clock in the morning before my water broke at like 8 a.m. with my second son, because that was the phase of life I was in at the moment.
I ran my month-old business from a NICU when my daughter decided to come 5 weeks early because she was so wiggly. She wrapped the umbilical cord around her neck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. My
those
son came 5 weeks early too. Yeah.
yeah, like, okay, we're gonna spend the next 2 weeks running a business from a NICU. This sounds like an awesome idea.
I know. I remember like sending emails from my hospital bed and being like, hey, so I'm in labor. Sorry. I'll get back to you in a few weeks. Like, I don't know
I
what else to do.
I did not know this about you, because the exact same thing happened to me. I was emailing my clients like, well, they're willing me into the ER. Like,
Yes.
hey, having a baby might have a little delay in communication. And I literally apologized for giving
Yeah.
birth.
I know. And I don't even like thinking back, I don't know how my computer ended up at the hospital, but I remember sitting in the bed and like typing on my computer because I had a BlackBerry at the time. I for sure wasn't doing it from that. And like when my water broke and it was like an emergent situation and I literally grabbed my kid and got in the car. So I don't think I thought to grab my laptop. So I don't know how it ended up at the hospital, but like yeah, that's the phase of life I was in the moment, And then now the phase of life I'm in, I've worked my ass off for the last 10 years, specifically 9 years, to have content that sells for me and makes me money all the time. And to have things in place and systems in place and people in place and all of these things to be able to say, I stop work at 3 o'clock and I don't work until 2 o'clock in the morning anymore, But I earned that right to do that. So yeah, we're all in like different places, and that's okay.
And I think it's a super relevant, and I think ties directly into our income. Like the reason that those successful child YouTubers, and I'm saying child like under 30 because I'm old now. I have a bedtime. Okay. But
Yes.
those younger people, like they're able to do this because they are in that place in life, and they are in that place where they can make that money in that way and do it in that situation. You
Mhm.
have to really take into account, like, what are you capable of without
Absolutely.
doing extra mental amounts of harm to yourself, like physically, mentally, whatever, to try and build long-term sustainable income opportunities for you. And I think that that is a really important key too. Like, YouTube is a long game platform for you to build a presence with slowly and surely and steadily that can eventually, teeter your scale to replace your incomes and stuff.
Totally. There's people who like they do those studies on the people, and it's usually men, who like literally have a genetic condition where they only need like 4 hours of sleep at night. A lot of the presidents have been this way. And I forget who now. I've looked into it before. There was a whole book I read on something because I'm a dork. But like uh, this girl, I need, if I could get 10 hours of sleep every night, that would be maximum benefit, like awesome. But I need a shit ton of sleep.
I'm in that 7 to 9. I'm in that 7 to 9, and I have always been that way.
Yeah,
Always,
same.
like since high school. I remember, like, my dad told me this when I went off to college. He was like, "Remember, college, you can either get sleep, get good grades, or have a good social life, but you can only pick 2." And I was like, "Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna sleep and I get
Yeah.
good grades." The girl did
Yeah.
not socialize much through college because I was
Yeah.
like, I need sleep. It is too important for my, like, mental well-being and existence." And again,
For
it's
sure.
important.
I'm the same way. Like if I don't sleep, I'm useless. And so it's like, a man who can only has to sleep 4 hours, he can get a lot more done in a day than I can.
Yeah, and we're not, and this isn't about like man bashing or whatever. It's literally like, and these things are important to know for when you're trying to figure out how you're going to make your money. Because if you correlate, oh, I have to stay up late and get less sleep because hustle culture's taught me this because it's going to equal making more money. No, you're wrong. Because if you're a person that needs sleep, you're going to be doing crappy work that's going to perform half as good, and it's going to take you longer. When if you just get a good night of sleep and then figure out in your day when your optimal times are to get stuff done and just focus and get those tasks done, they'll be great, and you'll be able to perform and do so much better. Okay,
Completely
so
agree.
I want to go back and think about, like, because you were a service-based provider on YouTube, this question's a little different. When was like your first taste of income that came directly from being a YouTuber? Not like your service stuff, but like, when was that first taste that you're like, ooh, a pivot will happen now?
Yeah, I got asked to speak at a conference and they paid me. It wasn't much by any means, but they paid for me to fly there. They paid for me to stay there. And then I know they paid me like a little bit for being a speaker. But I didn't have that many subscribers at the time. I probably had like 20,000, but it was a YouTube conference. And I remember in that moment, like being like, oh, I can do this kind of stuff. Like, that's cool. I wouldn't have gotten that opportunity had it not been for YouTube. And up until this point, like, yeah, YouTube was gaining me eyeballs and gaining me audience. And I was able to send emails and do the things and run specials and blah, blah, blah. But I was still selling the things I had pre YouTube. So I think having somebody be like, hey, we'd like for you to come speak was probably the first real like intro into wow, YouTube itself can be a career. But also when I made, and this is just like, this wasn't the first time, but I remember it like it was like yesterday when I made my first $1,000 a month from YouTube AdSense. I was like, huh, weird. Like all I did was put videos on a platform. Like that's holy moly, like that's insane. And then I believe that might have been the same year that I made about like $40,000 from the platform itself. And my job when I left corporate when my son was an infant, I was not even making $40,000 a year. And I think those moments were really big for me. Like, what? Like I can make money. That's weird. But also made me see like the potential.
Okay, so pairing with this is what has been a horrible money experience that you have had as a creator? So like a sponsor didn't pay you, or no one bought a digital product. Like, what was a horrible money experience that we can learn from?
There was a time when I was making around $1,000 a month from YouTube. And I still do this, but like I have so much other income like in the background built up to where it doesn't affect me as much as it did back then. But I would go through phases in my business where I wasn't like launching a new course, or I wasn't actively promoting something. And so I was only making whatever sales were coming in residually, right? Like from YouTube or from AdSense or whatever. I was making about $1,000 a month. And I remember like we went to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, because that's where everybody in the South goes because it's redneck Vegas. Okay.
Dollywood, come on now.
Yes, ma'am. So we were in Pigeon Forge, and I remember we were sitting at dinner, and of course we were going to have to pay for our meal. And I remember checking the checking account and it being like, not good, you know? And I was like, why do I not have any money? Like, so there was something about like what happened, you know? And I looked and I was like, I should have gotten my YouTube. Like, I remember thinking I should have gotten this like YouTube money. And I looked and it hadn't come through. And I went and I looked and they hadn't paid me in like 4 months. And I just hadn't noticed it because of like other stuff I was doing. And it was just in this moment, I needed that money and it wasn't there. And turns out that like there was some kind of lock on my account that I didn't know about. And try getting a hold of somebody at YouTube or Google, because let me tell you.
Especially when you need money. They're great for
Yeah.
customer support, not when when you're like, hey, where's my money?
Right. It was such a pain in my butt. And I remember being super stressed. So I'm not like an easily stressed person at all, but money or the lack thereof stresses me out beyond anything else. Like if I think, you know, something's going wrong or my income's going down or whatever. So I remember being like super stressed out about that. And that was also the moment when I was like, you know, I probably shouldn't rely on YouTube to pay my bills. Like, plus it was $1,000 a month. I don't know why I thought I didn't need to be doing anything else. I don't know. It was just it was an interesting time.
Well, and like I said, $1,000 a month. Like, I mean, I've been there with the YouTube AdSense, like I said, with the channel tanking struggle. You know, you had the whole story that you shared where like you made $80,000 a year in like 2022 from AdSense.
22. Yeah.
And then 2023, you're like, more views, same content, $26,000. And so it
Yes.
was like a quarter of what you're like. And so like I'm in that same boat. I was making $1,600 a month. And yes, I've had some struggles and downward turns, but why am I only making $200 now? Like,
Right.
that's like, again, that's the whole like you can't pay your bills on YouTube is true, but it's really, you and I are in the business space where our cost per click on like our ads and stuff is so much higher. I think mine averages at like $26, and I
Oh,
think
absolutely.
yours are higher than mine. Even I remember when you looked, I was like, girl,
They're insanely high. Yeah.
yeah. And I remember like watching one with like, if you ever like think of like what gamers have and do or lifestyle, theirs is somewhere in the realm of like cents, maybe to $5, maybe. And so it's just hard to think about the idea of like making all of your money in that way. But I really think that a lot of the like lifestyle-y, entertainment-y creators don't know what else that they could do besides have sponsors and AdSense. And it's really, I would be stressed about it. Like, I don't know how they're doing it, honestly.
I don't either. I just filmed a video before I hopped on this call about like 5 different streams of income that every creator needs and none of that was AdSense or like creator funds or anything. Because like, I don't know. It's like they're not thinking about these other things they could be doing. And it's a little frustrating for me to watch because I'm like, guys, like, first of all, you're not going to stay consistent. You're not going to be here in 2 years if you don't make some money, because then you're going to be like, why am I doing this? You know?
Yes. The starving artist can only get so far. Eventually they go get jobs, and like we don't want that for
Absolutely.
anybody. So we've talked about your worst financial moment. What has been your most successful financial moment?
That is a good question. So I'd say there's 2 tied for first. And one of those is when I had that digital planner video blow up, which I will quickly tell that story because your listeners don't know that one. But back in when I moved in my house, 2019, so back in 2018, I discovered digital planning, which was like these like actual planners, kind of looked papery, but they lived in an iPad and you like could write on them and turn the tabs and all the things. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I went out to buy one and I couldn't find one that I liked. So I decided to make one over Christmas break. And I was like, oh, my audience would love this on YouTube. Like, oh my gosh, I know it would do well because it was something not a lot of people were talking about. But I'm not going to put up a video until I have one that people could buy. So I spent all of Christmas break like creating this planner, planning out this video. And of course, it was very timely too, because it was at the beginning of the year, the next year. I put out this video, I put out this planner. In the video, I promoted the planner, but I also promoted tons of affiliate stuff, right? Like the iPad, the pencil, the screen protector that makes it feel like paper that you're writing on, all of these things. And the video blew up, which I knew it would. Like I knew it would. So that was I was like very smart to like stack all of these things on it. It blew up and in a week I made like $30,000. It was insane from like a $17 digital product. Like it was kind of bananas. And it was all directly because of that video. Like I didn't promote it anywhere else.
Which is really timely too, because it was also like the start of the year when everyone's like in like new planner, new me kind of a life.
Absolutely. It was like the perfect storm, and I tell that a lot. I tell that story, and when I'm using that story as an example, I always make that disclaimer. It was the perfect storm. Nobody was really talking about it yet on YouTube. It was an underserved niche. It was new, it was fun, and it was the start of a year. So, it was a perfect storm and I knew it would work. And yeah, I made like $30,000 in a week, and literally for the next like 4 months, I made like a shit ton of money from this digital product. And I started running like Pinterest ads on it and running it to like a funnel. So they were buying like stickers and this, that, and the other. And I mean, it was literally like the most money I'd ever made anytime in my business ever at that point. And I was like, wow. And this is all from one video and one digital product. That's insane, you know? But the second thing, and that like really comes to mind is 2022 when I made 80 some $1,000 just for putting content on YouTube. And that was just the YouTube check, right? Like that was insane to me and is still insane to me that
It's double your old salary.
yes, like just to put videos on the platform. Like I wasn't doing anything else. Like all of my other income was coming from courses and all of this other stuff. So this was just from creating content. And that content was then selling my other things. So it was like a really cool little moment, but like seeing that much money come in from doing something that I love to do and like is easy for me and is something I'm going to do anyway because it promotes my other things. That was a really cool moment.
Well, that parlays us really well into our pie chart that we do where we talk about all your different income streams. So we've broken yours down. You have a bunch of income streams, which I love to see. So first you have AdSense making up 9.4% of your income. And then you have sponsorships at 28.8%. Share with us what B2B sponsorships look like and how you navigate and put those together.
At this stage in my like creator journey, they come to me for the most part. That's not always the case. Like sometimes I'll meet companies somewhere, like whatever. For the most part, companies are coming to me and they're generally softwares that other business owners or creators want to use. That's almost always what it is. Sometimes it's,
Same.
sometimes it's other things, but it's most always softwares. So I've worked with Uscreen, I've worked with Skillshare, I've worked with like just tons of different like softwares. And essentially then at that point they want, their software seen in front of other people like me that I have an audience for. And I do not do dedicated sponsorship videos because that will tank my channel faster than anything. It's not worth it to me to like hurt my channel just for, a few $1,000s from a brand deal. And I did a lot of work like figuring that out and also like articulating that and making sure we knew how to tell sponsors that and things like that in 2020, 2021 when I first started doing sponsorships. So now the videos that I do very much so like are going to get them in front of the right people, but they are anyway because those are my people. And then I incorporate an ad read or a section of the video as kind of a commercial break or whatever for that thing. And then they pay me and it's absolutely glorious.
Okay, so I'm very interested in this like no dedicated video thing. So what are you doing then instead?
So it's more of an incorporated ad read or like a commercial, just like a podcast. So, you know how if you're listening to a podcast, like it literally interrupts the show and it could be about a sponsor that has nothing to do with the topic they're talking about, right? I think of it more like that. Now, I do try and obviously like build the video idea around the sponsor so it makes the most sense. I'm not generally interrupting for a sponsor that doesn't even fit in the video. But yeah, like, so the whole video is not built around the brand. The whole video is not built around promoting them. The whole video is built around getting views and getting people who actually want to see the video and who actually want to watch the video and slipping the brand in there. Because the difference is if I do dedicated videos, nobody watches them. So like, what's the point? you know? And so, like, what's the point for the brand? You know? It's like, why would you
So
want
you're
that?
talking about, like, so let's say, because I know one of your sponsors, your partners is Uscreen. So, like, you would be like, so you're not gonna do a video that's like, how to use Uscreen. It would be like the 10 ways, 5 ways to make income that you need to do right now. And one of the things is memberships, and you're talking about how you're using Uscreen to do it. Like, that's what you're talking about.
Absolutely. But I also, do you follow any like tech YouTubers or like photography YouTubers?
I do some, I mean, not a lot, but I probably should watch more of their stuff.
Yeah, so they do this really well, and this is something that I want to get better at, is like literally treating it as a commercial break. So like Peter McKinnon is great at this. He will talk about whatever. Like, you know, he'll be talking about photography, he'll be talking about like whatever he wants to talk about. And literally in the middle of it be like, "Okay, let's talk about our sponsors, you know, whoever." And it's legit a commercial break. It didn't have to work into the video like you were just saying like, "Oh, I talked about memberships as part of the video, so let me talk about Uscreen." And I like that too, and that is what I promise. So, when I'm signing the deals, I am not promising them that it'll even fit in the video. I'm promising them a commercial break. But I do generally do that.
I'm stealing this 100%. Like, I just did a sponsorship and it turned out really great. And I really like how the videos came out, but it was a lot of like extra mental content manipulation that I was just like, it took me away from other stuff that I wasn't prepared for. But another great example of this is cinema therapy. Cinema therapy will do like a commercial break, but what they do is like, they will like, make it sound like the commercial was made for the episode. So like let's say they're talking about Kung Fu Panda and they were doing like a commercial for like headphones. And so they're like, if you're looking for headphones, they're gonna make you, you know, the next Dragon Warrior. Like these are the ones, like those kinds of things versus like I recorded this totally separate and I'm just inserting it in here kind of a
Right.
thing, which is super. I don't like those, but
Yeah, I don't like that either. I don't like that either. I think there's a fine balance, and I will not do a dedicated video. Like I won't. People would pay me more to do it, and I just won't do it because it's not good for my audience. It's not good for me. It's not fun. It's not good for the brand. And so, like, why do it?
I mean, you can see that it's obviously effective for you too, because you're talking about AdSense versus sponsorship. It's like 4 times that of like, or almost 3 times of what you're doing, right? So it obviously works. But next you have on here is affiliates, which is 6.2%. And I'm not going to lie to you. I thought this would be more
Me
because
too.
I remember Jessica from 2018 because that's when I met you. And you're like, affiliates are bae. And I remember like you talking about like your very extensive relationship with like TubeBuddy and ConvertKit at the time. And ConvertKit makes me so mad because
That's yeah.
they changed, and it was really bad. So I'd love to hear about your affiliates,
Yes.
thoughts and feelings, and like where it sits in your income recommendations for people.
Yeah. So I still recommend it heavily. And I mean, you know, to be 6%, it's still like thousands of dollars a month, right? Like it's not, you know, or 1,000. I don't remember what it was. I when I was doing that. But so it's still not like shabby money, you know. But yeah, like back in 2018, I mean, we were making like $2,500 a month just from ConvertKit for affiliates with the podcast because we had worked our butts off to get to that point. And I think at that point, so that's still my like model with affiliates really is to try my hardest to get subscription based services that I promote that are going to pay me on a monthly basis. But I think ConvertKit butt hurt me honestly because it's like I worked my ass off to make $2,500 a month. Could have made way more. We were like in a really good trajectory with that. And then they were like, oh, never mind. We're only going to pay you for a year. And at this point, these people had been like, I had gotten them as a customer for ConvertKit 3 years before. And so like it, you know, I think that really like hurt a little bit, you know? And so I don't push it as hard as I used to. Let's put it that way.
This hit me in a way, like in a way I didn't expect the phrase of "don't build your business on rented land," and in a way I wasn't expecting, because it wasn't just that ConvertKit did it. It was Canva did it. Canva rolled back like their affiliate program where like you had to qualify, like they had to vet you. Another one was Uscreen. Uscreen got rid of their affiliate program. They're like, nope, we're not doing it all. We're just going to do brand partnerships, and like that's where we're investing our time. And I feel like somebody else had done it too, and I was like, bro, like that was crazy because I was in the same boat as you. I wasn't making thousands, but I was making quite a few $100s from ConvertKit because it was that idea of like they signed up and like I got to keep them every month. Like if so, it was like I mean, the customer's paying convert every month because I said that they wouldn't be there if it wasn't for me. And they're like, no, this is only good for 12 months. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this is insane. And it was really frustrating. And it really is an idea. It's like, and I've had this experience like with Amazon's affiliate program as well. Like Amazon's affiliate program, it was like they're always changing their interface, and some months are great and some months are terrible, or they'll like decide one month to make the percentage more or less. Like it's just all of these things, which is why it can get really stressful and frustrating in the creator economy, because you're like, I'm trying to diversify my income streams, but then other people mess with those income streams. It just can be really rary,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah. And so the way I look at affiliates is the same way I kind of look at AdSense. It's almost like icing on the cake. It's not a basket I put eggs in, but it's definitely one that I think about when I'm thinking about my content. So let's say I'm going to do a video about, I just got the new MacBook M3 MacBook Air. And so like, let's say I'm going to do a video about that. I would never publish that video without putting an affiliate link to buy the damn computer, And so like, but the whole video is not built for that, So it's kind of one of those things, like I think about it, but I don't put it as like a top tier thing because of that situation. Like, because of like, okay, well, I mean, no matter what I do, I could promote for these companies all day long and they may be like, no, girl, no.
Okay, so let's continue down our pie chart. So you have courses and consulting at 41% of your income, and then 5% is with consulting and speaking, and then you have 1.9 for paid emails. Tell me about this paid email income stream.
Well, while we're bitching about ConvertKit, let me tell you a good part about them.
Okay.
So I joined their, I don't know what they call it, but it's like their creator email, like basically a creator network for email. And so they will have, like, they kind of have a pool of creators that are in it. They'll have brands come to them and be like, okay, we want to do this. And then they pay a certain amount per email. And so we are doing generally like one email a month. I think it's one a month. It could be two a month. And it doesn't pay a crap ton of money by any means. It's like a couple, I don't know, it's probably $400 to $800 ish, maybe. I don't remember. But I guess it depends on how much I do it too. But in addition to that, so that's like the main way. But in addition to that, I have absolutely sold sponsored spots in my emails because I have a big email list. And so and I have a really good open rate and click through rate and things like that. And so sometimes it'll be something that I package in when I'm pitching a brand a deal. So it's like, okay, you can get this YouTube video for this much. You can get this Instagram reel or TikTok or whatever for this much. But then also, do you want to throw in, a mention in an email and, add a little like kind of spice to the pie, if you will, when I'm working with brands. So we've definitely sold spots in the emails outside of that network too in the past, and like, here and there.
Yeah, I think that's really cool, and it's a unique opportunity that a lot of people don't really sit in here. You know what I am surprised is not in here as an income stream, and this is just because I think this kind of goes into what we had talked about, how you got started with all this with blogging. You do not make any income off of your blog?
I mean, yes, but it all falls into a different category that you had listed, right? Like, yes, because it's either affiliates or my courses or funnels or something like that. I do not have ad revenue on my blog. And that is an intentional thing because that's not the point of the blog. And I don't want to muddy up the website with all of these like ad pop-ups and ad bars and all of these things for a few $100s a month when it's going to like take down the readability of my blog that actually does send people to affiliates or courses or whatever.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Now, I would love to know how much of your traffic comes from your blog?
More than you would think. So this is something I don't check a ton. And then when I do check it, I'm always like, what? So my blog probably gets right now around 30,000 views per month. And sometimes it goes up to like 50 and 60. It kind of just depends. But that's a significant amount of traffic coming in because of the blog, right? Like
Yeah.
because of finding content on Pinterest or Google that leads them to the blog that leads them somewhere else. And so, yeah, it's a pretty significant amount, honestly.
There's just so much powerful information in this episode. I hope everyone goes back and listens to this twice. You can find the links to everything that Jessica has talked about over in our show notes that you can find at thefundedyoutuber.com. Jessica, last but not least, what's your next money move?
So I'm starting another membership. And I say that with like, no, I do love the membership model. I think I have treated it like a course in the past where it was too much information or people needed to go through it to get everything out of it. And like going back to what we were talking about with like smaller courses versus bigger ones, that kind of thing. I treated memberships as like this big mission. And so then when people would come in, they would almost be overwhelmed and things like that. So I'm actually going to start a new membership that is a little bit different than that. I'm not going to spill any beans, but it's a little bit different than that. And also really bridges the gap between business owner Jessica and creator Jessica and lets me like ride that membership wave kind of on both streams, because memberships from a business owning perspective are very different from memberships from a creator perspective, right? And so I'm kind of bridging that gap and creating a new membership on Uscreen. I'm really excited about it.
And it's going to be really good. And like I said, I know that for you, memberships have been kind of like this weird situation. And I think a lot of it has to do just not having the right place or the right setup. And sometimes it's just about finding the right place. And I think Uscreen is honestly a great place for you because it's so video centric and it comes with the app. So you can just do all of that great stuff there. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us on this like silly and fun and relatable money adventure. I'm so grateful for you. And remember, everyone, until next week, go get that money. Peace. The Funded YouTuber is brought to you by Gigastar, a parent company of Gigastar Market, an SEC-registered funding portal, and member of FINRA. Learn more at gigastar.io. Music provided by APM Music, unrivaled music to bring your stories to life. Neither Gigastar nor its affiliated companies provide legal, regulatory, financial, or tax advice. Any opinions expressed herein are those of the authors and are the informational purposes only. The information and opinions expressed herein are subject to change without notice and do not take into account the particular investments, objectives, financial situation, or needs of any specific investors.